Prime Minister Pushpakumar Dahal has not been able to give a full shape to the Council of Ministers despite securing the vote of confidence at the House of Representatives for the second time exactly a week ago. Now, Premier Dahal had assured of expanding the cabinet a few days after securing the floor test. However, he has failed to do so and has called a meeting of the ruling alliance tomorrow in an effort to give a full shape to the cabinet at the earliest. Good evening, I am Prarambha Dahal. Let's begin with the main stories. Ruling coalition set to meet tomorrow to give a full shape to the Council of Ministers. Nepali Congress to discuss on its ministers tomorrow as well. Victims of loan sharks who have arrived in Kathmandu gear up to meet Prime Minister Dahal to hold talks with stakeholders, demand an end to their ordeal at the earliest. Airports, bus and train stations across Germany at a standstill this morning, disrupting millions of commuters and travelers during one of the largest walkouts in decades. And top seed Carlos Alcaraz swats side Dusan Lajovic to keep his title defense on track at the Miami Open. Third seed Casper Ruud sent packing. A meeting of the ruling coalition is slated for tomorrow to give a full shape to the Council of Ministers. Now, today's meeting of the senior leaders of the major parties of the alliance has decided to hold a meeting at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Now, Prime Minister and CPN Center Chairperson Pushpakumar Dahal, Nepali Congress President Sherpada Dewa and CPN Unified Socialist Chairperson Madhav Kumar Nepal have held talks regarding the share of the ministerial portfolios and works of the government. Prime Minister Dahal is facing complications in share of ministries due to lack of consensus on the share of portfolios among the coalition parties. Premier Dahal is shouldering the responsibility of 16 ministries after CPN-UML, Rashtriya Prajatantra Party and Rashtriya Swatantra Party quit the government. And despite the lapse of 1 week since generating the vote of confidence for the second time from the House of Representatives, Prime Minister Dahal is yet to expand the cabinet. Largest party of the alliance, Nepali Congress, is preparing to join the government under the leadership of party Vice President Purna Bahadur Khadka, while CPN Unified Socialist will be led by Deputy Chair of the party, Beduram Bhusal. Sarat Singh Bhandari of Loktantrik Samajwadi Party and Chairperson of Nagarik Unmukti Party, Ranjita Shrestha, are also preparing to join the government. Including the Ministry of Finance, Nepali Congress is claiming 8 ministries. CPN Center is aiming to lead the Ministry of Home Affairs, while CPN Unified Socialist has demanded at least 3 ministries. Meanwhile, Nepali Congress has decided to hold a meeting tomorrow to decide on the new ministers from the party. The Speaker of the House of Representatives, Devraj Ghimire, called on Prime Minister Pushpakumar Dahal earlier this morning. The meeting between Dahal and Ghimire, held at the Prime Minister's official residence in Balotar, delved into preparing a draft of the regulations of the House of Representatives and the proposal of reducing the roles of the Speaker. The Prime Minister's Secretariat has said that contemporary issues were discussed during the meeting. The draft of the regulations of the House of Representatives has yet to be finalized amid lack of consensus among the political parties. Speaker Ghimire has been expressing concerns regarding the proposal made to curb the Speaker's jurisdiction and execute duties under the Work Management Committee of the Parliament. Both the leaders have also held discussion regarding the endorsement of the bill related to transitional justice at the earliest. It is now time for our segment Public Polls, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Polls.
The question is, what is your take on the efforts to curb the jurisdiction of the Speaker? Your options are A. Party interests, B. Trying to facilitate meetings, and C. Parliament's internal issue. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. The victims of loan sharks who have walked on foot all the way from Madhya province to the federal capital Kathmandu have decided to hold discussions at Maitigar and hold a dialogue with Prime Minister Pushpakumar Dahal if possible. The victims have made preparations to hold discussions with concerned stakeholders first. The victims have geared up to exert pressure on the government to implement the agreement reached with the government in the past. They have demanded that the system of thumbsuk, an old-fashioned agreement paper made by loan sharks, be scrapped. The victims have warned of continuing protest programs until their demands are addressed. The victims of loan sharks, who started a long march from Madhya province, arrived at the federal capital Kathmandu yesterday. Some 72 loan shark victims from districts including Rautahat, Sarlai, Mautari had started the long journey to Kathmandu on foot on the 16th of March. The victims, most of whom are farmers and daily wage workers, said that they have come to the federal capital to make their demands heard. Now, landless squatters have protested against the ultimatum issued by the Kathmandu metropolis for the removal of unauthorized structures built on the riverbanks and corridor. The landless squatters have alleged the metropolis of directing for the removal of structures against existing laws. The Kathmandu metropolis had issued a 7-day ultimatum on Saturday for the removal of unauthorized structures built by encroaching the public land. Prior to this, the Kathmandu metropolis had made an effort to remove the unauthorized settlement of landless squatters following the suggestion of the high-powered Committee for Integrated Development of the Bagmati Civilization. A clash between the residents of the settlement and Metropolitan Police had erupted back then. Meanwhile, the metropolis has not collected data about the landless squatters as agreed with the National Land Commission. Hearing of the case against cricketer Sandeep Lamithane, who is alleged of raping a minor, has been postponed. Despite the final hearing slated for today at the bench of Kathmandu District Court Judge Madhav Ghimire, it was postponed by the lawyers representing Lamithane. The bench of Judge Ghimire had issued a verdict to hold Lamithane in judicial custody on the 4th of November last year. However, the High Court had overturned the decision and released Lamithane on a bail of 2 million rupees. During the review of the verdict of the High Court, the Supreme Court had directed for addressing the case through fast track, based on which the final hearing was slated for today. Also, the former captain of Nepal men's cricket team, a rape case was filed against Lamithane at the Gosala Police Circle by a minor on the 6th of September last year. Construction works of the road connecting Bihibare of Dhankuta to Myanglung of Terathum have gained momentum. Works have moved forward after more than 30 households vacated the land by demolishing the walls to ease the construction of the road in the Dhankuta-Bihibare section. Works of base, sub-base, canal and walls are underway in the 23-kilometer section of Bihibare-Hatia, Kormitahar, Bonsare and Telia to Tamling, with the objective of completion of the project by the mid of July. The 550 million rupee project aims to connect Dhankuta to Terathum headquarters Manglung through Telia and Sukrabare. The canal of Vutaha embankment in Suddhadan rural municipality of Kapilvastu has been cleaned and repaired. The canal, which was buried by waste including sand, plastic and garbage and was damaged at different places, has been repaired. The local residents who were employed for repair and maintenance works are now elated as water has begun flowing through the canal. The rural municipality had employed 100 poor farmers of the local area for 20 days for the repair and maintenance of the canal. Local residents of Siaule in Sindhupalchok are elated with the access to drinking water. A 152,000-litre capacity water tank has been built at an investment of 500,000 rupees from the Chotara Sangha Chokgadi municipality. Years-long problem of drinking water faced by the local residents of Siaule has been addressed as water is now available at home taps. A total of 168 households have been benefited by the project. The number of farmers planting paddy in the period between mid of March and April has increased in East Nawalparasi. More farmers have been drawn towards paddy plantation during the period between mid of March and April, as more paddy is produced during this time frame in relative comparison to the monsoon season. According to the Agriculture Knowledge Center Nawalpur, paddy is expected to be planted over the area of 1,300 hectares in the period this year. During the same period last year, paddy was planted over 800 hectares of land, which led to the production of 6,123 metric tons. Farmers of Goirakot, Kawasoti and Madhyabindu, among other places with access to irrigation, and those near wetlands are busy planting paddy. Talks regarding disaster management have begun between Nepal and the United States of America. The 3-day meeting titled Nepal-America Land Force Talk is delving into topics including peace, human aid and disaster management and training. A total of 14 members of the Nepali team include representatives from the Ministries of Defense, Foreign Affairs and Finance, including Nepal Army, and are led by Major General Ashok Raj Sigdel. The 22-member American delegation is led by Deputy Commander Major General Christopher Smith of the Pacific Command of the U.S. Army. Time now for the international news. Airports and bus and train stations across Germany were at a standstill this morning, disrupting millions of commuters and travelers at the start of the work week during one of the largest walkouts in decades in Europe's largest economy. The 24-hour strikes called by the Verdi Trade Union and Railway and Transport Union (EVG) were the latest in months of industrial action that has set major European economies as higher food and energy prices dent living standards. Two of the country's largest airports, Munich and Frankfurt, suspended flights while long-distance rail services were cancelled by German rail operator Deutsche Bahn. The Verdi Union is negotiating on behalf of around 2.5 million employees in the public sector, including in public transport and at airports, while Railway and Transport Union (EVG) negotiates for around 230,000 employees at railway operator Deutsche Bahn and bus companies. Frank Wernicke, head of the Verdi Labor Union, who spoke of the largest strike in decades, said the labor action was a matter of survival for millions of workers amid high inflation. German consumer prices rose more than anticipated in February, up 9.3% from a year earlier, as cost pressures remain even as the European Central Bank has been trying to tame them with a series of interest rate increases. EVG chairperson Martin Burkert said that employers had not yet made a viable offer and warned that further warning strikes were possible, including over the upcoming Easter holiday period. Deutsche Bahn yesterday said the strike was completely excessive, groundless and unnecessary, and employers are warning that higher wages for transport workers would result in higher fares and taxes to make up for the difference. South Korea's military has said North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the sea off its east coast this morning, the latest in a series of launches as a U.S. aircraft carrier is set to arrive in South Korea. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the missiles were fired from North Hwanghae province and flew about 370 kilometers. Today's launches came as the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Nimitz and ships from its accompanying strike group are scheduled to dock at a South Korean naval base in the southeastern port city of Busan tomorrow. South Korea's defense ministry has said before its arrival, the carrier was to stage joint maritime exercises with South Korean forces off the Korean Peninsula's south coast. Now, meanwhile, Japan has warned that Pyongyang could carry out further provocative actions, including nuclear tests, after North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles into the sea off its east coast this morning. Japanese Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno told a news conference they believe that North Korea may take further provocative actions in the future, including launching missiles and conducting nuclear tests. Matsuno called North Korea's repeated missile launches absolutely unacceptable. Meanwhile, on a different note, Matsuno said Chinese authorities had informed Japan this month that a man in his 50s had been detained for violating Chinese law. Matsuno said since the detention case came to light, the Japanese government had been strongly demanding from the Chinese side the early release of the Japanese national. And Astella's spokesperson confirmed that a Japanese man was detained in China was an employee of the company and that it was seeking information through Japan's foreign ministry. The Myanmar government has celebrated the 78th anniversary of the founding of its national army. Now, during a speech on the Armed Forces Day, Junta Chief Min Aung Hlaing said lawful actions would be taken against terrorist opposition forces. The military, known as the Tatmadaw, celebrated with a parade of troops and weapons in the capital Naypyidaw for the 3rd year since overthrowing the elected government of Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi on the 1st of February 2021. Meanwhile, the United States on Friday had announced further sanctions against Myanmar, targeting the supply of jet fuel to Myanmar's military following airstrikes in civilian-populated areas. Alibaba founder Jack Ma has returned to China and visited a school he founded in the city of Hangzhou, according to the South China Morning Post. Ma, one of China's best-known entrepreneurs, left mainland China in late 2021 and has been seen in photographs in Japan, Australia and Thailand in the months since. Once one of the country's most outspoken businessperson, he retreated from the public limelight in late 2020 after criticizing China's regulatory system that was later blamed for triggering a wide-ranging regulatory crackdown by Beijing. While Chinese authorities said in recent months they had ended the crackdown and would look for ways to support the private sector, Chinese entrepreneurs said they saw Ma's decision to stay overseas as a factor hindering confidence. Alibaba's shares in Hong Kong rose more than 4% after the South China Morning Post report was published. Alibaba did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The school Yingyu Education today said on its WeChat account that Ma had visited its premises and posted photographs as well as a video of the Alibaba founder at the school. Ma also recently relinquished control over Ant Group, a Chinese fintech giant, in an overhaul that seeks to draw a line under a wider regulatory crackdown. Now, thousands of people gathered along Washington's tidal basin to take in the sights of the city's famed cherry blossom trees in peak bloom. The pale pink and white blossoms frame the pathways surrounding the city's iconic monuments. Locals and tourists were seen taking photographs and walking along the basin. According to the National Park Service, the peak of the cherry blossoms is defined as the point when 70% of the blossoms around the tidal basin are open. The beloved trees were given as a friendship gift from Japan in 1912. The annual Cherry Blossom Festival commemorates the enduring gift of the nearly 3,000 trees and celebrates the relationship the two countries share.
You have to look at me.
That is all for the moment. Our next news bulletin is at 10:30 p.m. Thank you for staying with us. Goodbye for now.